My name is Carrie, and I am here with Robert Cohn, the creator and founder of the Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. So today he's going to be educating us on the St. Paul's
Episcopal Church is, of course, a church that budded out of the Catholic Church, and this happened in Great Britain or England. And so, to understand that, I'll talk about that later. And this is not its first true campus. And so, if you look at the cornerstone of this church, you're going to find out that it has the year 1866 embedded in the cornerstone in 1903. And what that means is that in 1866, their first church was built. And that church was at the point where there's now the Hadley Falls Trust Company at the southeast corner of Suffolk Street and Maple Street. They were there until 1903, and then they decided that we had to grow bigger and also follow the people. And the trolley is bringing people up in the Highlands, especially the people of British origin, which would be the Episcopals here. And so they built their own church in 1903, finished in 1904. It's a Gothic style. Now, if you look at it, it looks like the brick, the masonry has some red brick in it. Well, I'm pretty sure that reddish color is coming out of the concrete that holds the blocks of masonry together. And after 100 years, it looks like it's a reddish, but it's not. It's actually granite, and granite, sure, it's sometimes red or pink granite, but when I look at it, there's no orange feldspar within there to make it the reddish color. That reddish color is coming from the mortar itself. All right, now it's a true campus, and there's going to be a question about that. And also, most importantly, this is one of the few churches in Holyoke that hasn't changed its denomination from its physical church. So it's still an Episcopal church, and it still has an active congregation. So we'll talk about that too.
Now, how has its campus developed?
Okay, the campus around it has gotten bigger and bigger. It's gotten a rectory, a parsonage, and that one was, again, not the first rectory. The first rectory was down on Maple Street, but this was the one that was built for the rector that came up. And it was built in 1906, right? And they made it in what's called a Tudor style. And the Tudor style is the old Elizabethan or Shakespearean style. You notice that it has a lot of vertical wooden elements, and its gables are ornamented in the same way with very heavy wooden lintels. And also it has in the back of it a social hall, and that social hall was built up, and it also has, if you look closely in the back of it, a tiny little addition that became the St. Paul's Nursery School. And I believe this was made in the 1950s. So it tried to be, as much as possible, a full campus. It didn't quite have enough Episcopalians in Holyoke to really grow upwards from that. But it was a great job. It's a beautiful church. If you ever get a chance to visit inside of it, and there's going to be Doors Open event in Holyoke this year, October 14th of 2023. And I think the Episcopal Church is going to be part of that. You can get inside. The stained glass is beautiful inside. The pews are beautiful. And you'll be amazed by the amount of people that can actually fit inside this church, which seems small from the outside, but actually it's pretty large.
So quickly, before we continue with the rest of our interview, if you would like to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at hoyokecanaltour.org, or to inquire about setting up a private tour or any questions about anything else, email him directly at bobcat4214, and they're perfect for fun and educational outdoor activities for the whole family. So getting back to our interview, explain the denomination called the
Episcopals. Well, the denomination is this. You had the Roman Catholic Church 500 years ago around most of Southern Europe and around most of far Western Europe. And in Great Britain, King Henry VIII wanted to divorce one of his wives. He had like 8 wives, and one of them he wasn't allowed to divorce. The others are either dying or so. And on this one, he asked permission of the bishop, and then he asked permission of the Pope, and they both said no. He was a Roman Catholic, and so he was also King of England. And what did he do? He started a new religion. Probably the first time that a king would start a religion. And he called it the Episcopal religion. And what it's all about, it's exactly like the Roman Catholics. If you go to the Mass there, you're going to realize that the Masses have an incredible amount in common. Everything seems the very same. They name things the same. They have the same structure or look of the churches. And thus, the only difference is that the Episcopal Church allows divorces, whereas the Roman Catholic Church does not. So King Henry VIII could get his divorce and get married again and try to have a male offspring. He would be frustrated many times over after that. But when the Episcopals came to the United States, they at first didn't want to have their own religion come right out and say, oh, we're going to have a religion here too. At first they were called the Methodist Episcopals, and then even that started to disintegrate a bit, and the Episcopals said, oh, we can have our own religion, and they started to do that. And Holyoke had one of these because there's so many British Yankees around, and they started up their own church. So you have a lot of Roman Catholic churches on it, a very Catholic city, but you have these smaller Protestant churches, and this is one of them.
So what does the future hold for such a church?
Okay. Now remember I said that it's been around almost since the beginning of Holyoke. It formed around the year 1863. Its cornerstone might say 1866, but it first started holding masses in 1863, and they would hold them in rooms inside of social function halls that existed on Maple Street and High Street. And that's extremely early, and so we're now 170 years later, and still this church has not had to sell out. There's still an Episcopal church. Now, how much longer can it last? Probably a lot longer, because the way that they're doing this is they accept a lot of people from the outside that aren't Episcopalians, and they allow them into the religion. And they're a very open religion nowadays, and they're willing to make changes for people, and they accept different people of different races, and they also are very accepted about marriages. And so I would say that the future of this church is very strong, and the future of the physical church is also very strong. If you walk by, there's almost no defects around. So thank you for listening to this podcast.
Thank you, Robert, for educating us, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And again, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org to find out any more information or set up a private tour. You can email him directly. Again, that's bobcat4214, capital B, @yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming fall 2023 and 2024 schedule of tours and more as they become available.